Oh, you went go. I was gonna go on one. Hey, good morning. Wait. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another tantalizing episode of We Don't Know What This Thing Is. We are your hosts today, Mr. Sean Patton and myself, me. Hope you guys are enjoying a nice, tasty beverage, maybe a glass of water, maybe your favorite, whatever gets you in the mood. Because we're gonna go ahead and take you on this ride all the way down to smooth and fun discussion topics about gambling of all things. Welcome,
Oh, it sounded like we
Sean.
were going to go into like a talk about jazz, like smooth jazz.
Yeah, I had to throw the wrench in there. What's up?
Yeah, yeah, it's been a while since we were able to record one of these, so it's I'm excited to get back to it. But big topic today is gambling. This goes. I think it's a really important topic these days, just because of how much microtransactions that video games are starting to put into their games to make a little bit more money, and they know that it's a successful way for them to make money. But beyond that, I think there's also issues within society, not just with. I mean, we've seen even most recently what did the mega billions or mega millions or was it the Powerball? I think it was Powerball got up to like 1.5 billion dollars or something like that, and uh, I, I think that it's always going like gambling is always going to be an issue because that that feeling that you get whenever you win, right? So we're going to talk about it on the real world side and talk about it on the gaming side because gaming is what a lot of people are impacted by today. It's a what is it? Accessible gambling for everybody, right? And whenever you can reach children, that's an issue um, since generally it's an 18 plus activity. So yeah,
Slow
that's
your
my
roll,
side.
brother. Gaming is real world. What are you talking about?
It's becoming that real quick. We're all joining the matrix very quickly. The metaverse. It's going to be the metaverse, right?
And I heard you, man. Time to take the red pill, right?
Yeah. Even wearing a red shirt today, right?
Right on.
It's
You're
Deadpool,
ready
but
for
yeah.
it. Oh, actually, yeah. Hold it. I didn't know it was Deadpool.
Yeah, man,
Cool.
this is a great shirt. I got this out of a freaking. Uh, I got this out of a what is it? One of those loot crates from legitimately like 10 years ago. It was great.
Uh-oh, how fitting. You got it out of a loot crate.
I know, right? Ain't that ironic?
All right, well, let's just jump right into it. I think it's good to kind of give an overarch. What's your general opinion on gambling? When you hear the word gambling, what do you know? What do you think? What's your experience with it? Kind of give a top down.
Yeah, so my initial thoughts when I think gambling is like, hey, a very low, very risky way to potentially make money, right? Because there are people out there that do make money off it because they're experienced gamblers or whatever, and it feels kind of like, and this is kind of jumping a little outside the sphere of what we're talking about, but kind of like with the stock market, and a lot of people are treating the stock market nowadays. That at first you got to lose a little bit before you actually start winning, but that's only if you have some experience and you've got some training in how to actually not necessarily manipulate the system, but like understand how the system is moving and how you can take advantage of those of recognizing patterns, and that happens in gambling as well. So not all sorts of gambling. Some of it's just straight up you only win once every 33,000 tries or whatever.
Gotcha.
But
I definitely hear you there, and I asked a couple questions like what kind of experience do you have with gambling outside of? I mean, I definitely have my own definition, but
mhm.
um, I don't know like how technical I'd like to be when I do answer this question.
Right.
Um, but I'm curious as to what your experience with gambling.
Yeah, so I guess for me, some of the more obvious experiences is I have thrown down a little bit of money. I think I've spent less than $100 on like lottery tickets, and just whenever
Mhm.
when they jump up there to those 1.5 billion numbers, I'll throw $20 at it. Maybe you get
Yeah,
really
it's fun.
lucky.
It's fun.
It's
Yeah,
an opportunity. You don't miss out on much as long as it's not something like you need that $20 to fill your tank to get to work that week or something. As long as
yeah.
it's not detrimental to you, I think that it's okay to partake, but only to a certain degree, right? Um, you got to understand like how risky it is. But yeah, so I think I've spent like 50, $60 on like lottery tickets, and I've spent, you know, 20, $40 on like actual like slot machines when I just happen to be like passing by with some on a trip or something like that. But um, but yeah, very very little in, I guess, the actual like what is labeled a gambling scene. But outside of
Right.
that, I've thrown money into other things. So not so much with gaming because I've never really been like big on like CS:GO or anything. Never really partook in that game, well, much less the gambling portion of it, what I
Hmm.
consider a gambling portion of it. But real world, more like physical objects. I like collecting Pokemon cards, and whenever I collect my Pokemon cards, or Yu-Gi-Oh, or football card, like whatever kinds of trading cards I'm getting, I always buy them the packaged ones, and then it's a gamble to see, hey, do you actually get something that you're looking for, or are you getting just random stuff that you're not wanting to keep? So that one I spent upwards of uh, a few $1,000s on that, but fortunately, I've made a majority of that back, and really, it's more so about what they call the thrill of the hunt rather than the actual spending the money just to feel that or of what you're getting out of it, I should say. So
What was it like you felt like personally you were getting out of the gambling experience? And did you really feel it? Like, do you think maybe you needed to spend more money? Like, what was your emotional experience of that?
it sucks because a lot of the time when you're not pulling that one card that you're looking for, that one hit, as most would call it, you start to really feel like, oh crap, man, I've spent all this money, I'm not getting what I'm looking for, and then all of a sudden you finally hit it, but now you've spent, that particular card. You may have gotten other cards to kind of make up for the difference in the price that you or the money that you put in, but once you
Mm,
hit that one card, it's like, okay, well, I spent $600 on this, and this card's worth $100 or something like that, and the open market. So it's one of those like, are you really going after that one? If you're actually after that one card, then are you in it for? Why not just go and buy that card like separate rather than spend the
yeah.
$600 and hunt for it yourself, right? So
Right. Right.
how
I
about
think
you?
that's a I think that's a big distinction. Yeah, for me personally, um, I define gambling. I think maybe it's a bit, I don't know, more technical or not, but basically there's like a few conditions like you have to check in order for it to be gambling, right?
Hmm.
The first thing is that you have to know that you're spending money. You have to be spending money in this process some way, shape, or form, and it's an agreement. I know I'm spending money, and the person that I'm gambling with, they also know that so there has to be like that physical money involved. That can mean that I buy something in exchange, tokens or whatever the case may be. But everybody knows that whatever it is that is being played with or bartered with, that there was money spent in the situation. The second thing is that there needs to be um, a sense of randomness. There, like the outcome isn't guaranteed for either myself or the other parties involved
Hmm.
in some way, shape, or form. And the last thing is that there needs to be a reward or a prize for doing it. It can't just be that I am, spending money to watch the lights go off or to something just happen for the experience. It has to be that I am spending money on a random event chance that happens, and then there's a prize associated to it as well. That's what I consider to be. Um, that being said, I have gambled. Um, I like what not this last weekend, but the one before. For the first time ever, I went to a casino.
Nice,
I went to Choctaw in Oklahoma. Me and a
nice.
buddy, we drove up there, and he was like, "All right, we got $40. It's your first time. I want you to go and hit that beginner's luck, and maybe we're gonna walk out of here changed men." And I still have the ticket. Actually, it's in the other room, but I walked away with 30 cents.
Nice.
Uh,
So
after like
so
yeah,
successful.
after a few spins. I didn't lose anything because I didn't stake my own money, but I did. Yeah, but there were slots that
Yeah.
we played. There's like a buffalo one and some another wolf one. I don't know. I was feeling animalistic,
Yeah.
but that's it. Outside of that, like when I was really young, we used to play card games, with family, and sometimes you'd pay for like nickels and stuff. Um, so that in a way is gambling. I find that to be a lot different because it's not institutionalized gambling. Your the agreements are between people, and
Hmm.
that to me is a little bit of a distinction, though it's still gambling. But my experience is very little. I never got into trading cards. So I mean, like you saw, I don't have the idea of like trying to pull for that card or anything like that. But I have played quite a few video games in my life, uh, and I don't necessarily know if I would consider them to be gambling mechanics, but there are like gotcha mechanics, kind of where
Hmm.
you've got a set pool of items that you can get, and you're doing that. I didn't do those. I didn't play any of those games really. I think the closest is I when I first started working, and I first got an income. That was like my graduation kind of into adulthood, and I was able to play video games with the idea that I could spend my own money now. And I was playing RuneScape at the time, and you could buy these keys, RuneScape 3, I think specifically. You could buy these keys, and you could get in-game stuff, random in-game stuff, depending upon what you got. So I bought like 50 keys once, and I blew through those keys in like 12 minutes or something. And I was like, this is kind of whack. And I haven't bought keys ever since. But that's about the extent of it, like in my entire life. So not big into gambling. I've certainly seen it affect people. I've certainly seen it ruin some lives. Um, and I know how bad it can be, but personally, not for me. I didn't like that experience at all.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I bought a few RuneScape keys myself, so
Oh yeah, yeah, you get it.
yeah.
What it's like treasure hunter, I think is what it's called.
Yep. Yep.
Mm.
It's a it's a fun little mechanic, but once you start paying for it, it detracts from your bank account for sure.
I think that's something that you said that was pretty distinctive because I personally don't think that the trading cards are gambling. I get that it's like the same pull mechanic that you're going for random chance, but what you said at the end was exactly why I think that's not the case. Is because if you really wanted to play this game, um, the art of like getting a card that you want is very randomized. So I know it fulfills many of the conditions that I laid out, but you can actually go and find the specific card that you want and just pay for it. You know
Hmm.
exactly what you're getting for, or you know exactly what you're getting. You're getting it. You can guarantee that transaction. You just can't do it directly from the distributor or manufacturer. You're encouraged to trade amongst the other player base, and the rarity of the cards usually value, how good the card is. So it's like a player's market, you know.
Yeah.
That to me isn't gambling. But I think that it's that exact same um, distinction that some companies are able to get away with having this happen because you know this. I don't know how old were you when you bought your first pack of cards?
My first pack of cards,
Yeah,
that was a long time ago. So like um, early 2000s. So yeah, when the card game first came out, but you don't think of it as gambling at that point. You just think of, hey, I'm buying these cards and I'm going to use them to, build a deck, or it's just something cool and fun to collect. And as a child, you don't necessarily understand the rarity and how that impacts, the value of things. Especially, back then, if you were to pull, the best cards back then, it was just a holographic card. So
yeah.
is just the background of the card. All the cards look the same except for those special ones that had that holographic background. So um, I guess the difference between then and now is, they've just become increasingly more impressive artworks and stuff like that. So, but the big
Sure.
difference also then is that at the time, people were going crazy for the unopened packs of cards. They weren't necessarily going crazy for specific cards. So, like if you were to pull a Charizard way back in the day, you can turn around and if there was like there might have been a market that I wasn't that I'm still not aware of or was never aware of. Um, that you could turn around and sell that Charizard card to someone that was, oh man, I really want that card. Okay, yeah, yeah, like $5, and I've got like three of them anyways. So here, because there was
Yeah.
no, it wasn't a collector's value, and at the time you could still go out and buy card or buy packs and potentially get it. So it's the same thing as like nowadays you try and go and buy one of those first edition, shadowless base set trading card packs and or booster packs, and it's going to cost you, $3,000-$4,000, right? So, and then the cards themselves are, I think the best selling Charizard was a shadowless base Charizard that was a PSA 10 that was like 200 and something thousand dollars, right? And that's just not feasible for regular folks nowadays. But if you were to go out and you were to buy one of these older packs that just happen to still exist out there, you're spending 3 or 4 thousand. You might get absolutely nothing out of that pack, right? So, and at that point, it's not necessarily the manufacturer created, but the market created another gambling opportunity. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very like important that we are outlining the situation. Like when things just kicked off when you were young, like the perceived value of things was very like attainable, very low, you know. And then as it kind of grew, things got more rare. They stopped printing cards.
mm,
Now they start speculative assets to the point where the rarity of it as amongst the entirety of the cards, especially ones in good condition,
mm,
are now valuable to collectors, and those things now start to take value. Um, and I know what you're saying too. Like the stakes are much 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 higher. Like I just looked it up at a curiosity. They said in 2022, a Shadowless Hollow for Charizard with the PSA grade of 10 went for auction $420,000 for that card. And imagine being like a 7-year-old kid and pulling that, be like, that's so cool. And then like waving it around the playground, dropping it, like it getting you use as a coaster, and then you
mm,
wiped your ass with it or something. I don't know.
yeah,
And you don't know, right? You have no idea about how rare this card
the
is or what
the
but it didn't
potential
matter.
value, yeah,
Yeah, the potential, but it didn't matter to you as a kid. Like the idea and the novelty and the excitement was all with random. I can't even say that when they were making the cards at the time that they thought that the thing that they want or would collect or put that much value in that that's outstandingly impressive.
right.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah, and nowadays, it's crazy to look like even just a box to box comparison nowadays. If you were to go out and buy like the newest set, like a brand new booster box, like 36 packs of cards, it's 100. You probably get it for $100, maybe even less if you talk to the right people, right? Because they're still making money off that. But if you turn
yeah,
around and you try and buy one of those booster boxes from the original releases, like if you're talking about the fossil sets or the jungle sets or the original base set, you're talking, upwards of 10K per box. And that's a
easily.
massive difference. And
Wow.
that's not even for something specific. That's for the opportunity. There's a chance that it might have something super valuable in there. But you may
You
not even
could
get your money back out of it. So,
you could open it and then have lost a majority of the value from
hmm
having opened the box. And
exactly.
I don't know. There was like the huge scandal thing for a while that popped up on YouTube. I think was that Logan Paul and like yeah, and
Yep.
they were seemed like a good group of people were getting invested into owning these collectible cards. Um,
Mm,
I think like I struggle to see the connection. Obviously, kids are doing this, right? Like when you were young, you got your pack. I saw the stuff from the playground. I know that the kids were really into Pokemon at the time when I was coming up. Um, and so, like, why is it that kids are allowed to do this? If we're making this synonymous with gambling, and we know that children shouldn't. Well, I don't want to speak for you. Do you feel like maybe children should gamble or not?
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think. Yeah, I don't think that they should be allowed to gamble. Like this is something that a lot of people are in agreement. Why is it that we allow them to like card pulls in the form of Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever the case may be? I guess maybe it was baseball cards even
hmm
for that. Um, is that not a precursor to gambling? Like specifically because you can buy this card, you know exactly what you're getting, and you can trade it amongst the community. I would say it's not all gambling. You are obviously taking a chance, but you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Um, why is it that we're okay with that, but then whenever it comes to gambling, we were definitely like, okay, no way. That's where I draw the line. Kids shouldn't be gambling.
I think it's just because of the method of which it's distributed. Because the way that it's distributed is the company is not forcing you. Like it's not expensive, right? It's like three or four. It's like $4 per pack or whatever, maybe 4.50 nowadays, if you're buying them individually. But you look at it and the intent of it is that you get from the company, at least, is that you get the cards and you use those to create a deck that you can use to play in tournaments and stuff like that and
Right.
participate in the community. Not
Right.
necessarily so that you can take that and turn around and maybe get lucky, get a really like popular card, something that people want to collect, and then you can turn around and sell that to make your money back or more maybe.
Correct.
I think adults are the ones that brought that made or added a gambling aspect to it. That it was unintentional from the beginning. Maybe not unintentional from the beginning, but at least all what we can tell, and all the whatever statements the company makes is that there is no intent for it to be a gambling opportunity. That being said, I think that because adults have labeled it or added a gambling aspect to it by being willing to pay like unrealistic amounts of money for a piece of cardboard, um, I think that's what has made it a gambling light for children nowadays because they're saying, oh well, man, my parents are willing to buy me these Pokemon cards because I like playing the game, but I can turn around and maybe I get something really cool that I can turn around and make some money off of as well. So they have kind of adhered to the culture that has been created around the cards, and then that may turn them into, hey, well, adults are allowed to do this in the same way, just with other things. But if you think about it, like it's not like even outside of Pokemon, because Pokemon is kind of it's a little more not regulated, but kind of off to the side kind of cultural group or community. If you compare that to say like sports cards, because the amount of money that is in like the NFL or in NCAA or in football or American soccer, as we would call it, that there's some cards that you can pull from those sets where they have created a kind of gambling culture on it, even around Magic the Gathering now. If you
Right.
saw like the most recent special set that they released that was Lord of the Rings themed, they came out right and said, hey, there's going to be this one card we print. It's going to be the one ring. We're only printing one of them. And if you
Didn't
find
Post Malone buy that or something?
Yeah, Post Malone bought it for like $2 million from a fan
Yeah.
that ended up selling it. And off the subject a little bit, I was a little frustrated with the fact that the person sent it into PSA to get it graded. It came back a 9 being the only one in existence, which is hilarious. Which is hilarious to me. But beyond that, if they had sent it to like BGS, they had this whole special thing. They're like, hey, listen, if you find the one ring, you're not going to pay for it. We're going to pay. We're going to fly you to our headquarters. We're going to give you a special case for it. We're going to it's this whole big package where we're going to grade it for free in front of you so we can talk through all the little things. You get to tour our headquarters. You get a special case for it. Like it's like one of those like suitcases, like one of those
That's so nuts.
and like all this cool stuff, and it's like a $2,000, $3,000 value package or whatever. And this guy's like, nope, send it to PSA where they're gonna grade it a 9. I
That's
felt
kind of get
it,
that.
it made me laugh, but sorry, this is off subject a little bit, but that just kind of goes to show like I guess those that have money have created a gambling culture around something that just because they have increased the value of certain objects based on companies' decisions or based on their own interests or whatever it might be. It's the same thing with like Logan Paul, which you were talking about. He ended up buying this case of original base set shadowless booster, like a sealed booster box, and he opens it and he spent like 1.5 million or 1.8 million somewhere around there for this.
Ridiculous amount.
Yeah, a ridiculous amount of money, which all of a sudden made, everybody's like, well, so Pokemon cards can be valuable. So now they start charging up on it, and the community's sort of like, yeah, they're much more valuable because everybody's so excited about them now, because they could potentially sell a special card to Logan Paul for $1 million because he has just money to throw around, right?
Right.
But that being said, uh, it turned out that it was a fake box, right? So, but he inflated the value just by making that kind of purchase, even if it turned out to be fake. But
Right. So I think I get what you're saying when you're saying that it's not the Pokemon, like the guys that are making the trading card game, that are the ones that are putting this together for the sake of gambling, like it being a gambling situation.
Hmm.
But the players themselves have created the player market for the value of the cards, and that has sort of turned it from just I'm going to be able to pull cards to build a strong deck to I'm going to be able to pull cards to make a profit.
Right.
And you think that if you're pulling cards with the intent to sell, then that's when it's gambling. But
Right.
if you're pulling cards with the intent to play, then that is not gambling.
No,
Is that
not
correct?
not gambling in its traditional sense. I mean, you're still gambling that you're going to get the cards you want to make that specific deck you want, but it's not with
Yeah,
the idea of profit at that point. It's with the idea of being able to participate in the community, if that makes sense.
right.
So
Maybe it would be fair to substitute the word gambling in that situation for just randomness or luck at that point, right? Like it's just luck whether or not you're going to be able to get the card that. Whereas if you're going to do it with the intent to sell, you are gambling at a good.
maybe a little bit. I don't necessarily disagree, but I think that there's still I think it's hard to get away from that word gambling with it, even still, just because yes, it is about luck, but that's what gambling is as well. A majority of
Yeah,
the time, it's about luck. So
right.
I think there are certain aspects that you would take away from the traditional sense of gambling, but I don't know necessarily think it takes away from the term gambling yet. So.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, it's like synonymous for taking a chance, spending money to take a chance.
To
It's
be
just going to be,
successful basically, and
yeah,
at that point you're not gambling for the monetary gain, but for the status gain maybe, because you're looking for those cards that are going to make you better than everybody else.
okay. And so, what is it that you think makes it like? Would you let your kids pull Pokemon cards?
I think it would be fine as long as if I didn't attach a monetary value to it necessarily, or if it was just purely for the collector's sense of it. It's like, okay, well, this one's valuable because it's just a pretty looking card. It's got good artwork, and there's cards out there that I think should be worth way more purely because of the artwork, not necessarily because of the rarity or the complexity of it. It's just something that looks good to me, right? So it has a higher value for me, and I think that's fair. But that being said, I would never want to inflate the market necessarily on that card specifically because I have the capacity to, right? Um,
Right.
but also, if it's like one that has less, if it's a more printed card than one of those super rare cards, then it's the value is kind of set by the company at that point.
Right.
So, um,
I get. Okay. Yeah.
oh, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. I feel like I get where you're coming from. So it's to say, like, you're not against gambling in principle, but maybe more institutionalized gambling, and or like when it starts to become about the monetary aspect of it, that's when
Mhm.
you don't want the kids engaging into it.
Right.
Is that fair to say? Okay.
Exactly, and the reason why I bring this, or I think a good thing to bring up is like if you look at the most recent Pokemon card set, the one that just came out was called Obsidian Flames, and Charizard is the big card in Pokemon. If you pull a Charizard, it's going to be worth some money, and whether that be based on the value of the card itself when it's used in like tournament play or like competitive play in the trading card game, or if it's the value of the card. So one card just came out in this set. Well, there's several different Charizards that came out in this, but there was one that was like an alternate like artwork from the rest of them. And this particular artwork, the day but like a few days before it came out, people were asking, $300, $400, $500 before the set came out. And then once the set came out, everybody was realizing, holy wait, this is like not that difficult card to pull. Like it's a lot more common than what old sets used to be. They're increasing the rate of which this card is printed so that it's more common. Like it's still it's a special card. It has really nice artwork, and the value is still higher because of that. But it's not so ridiculous that this card becomes, $1,000, $2,000 card here in a year or two because of how many they're printing on it. I think that is one of the ways that the Pokemon Company is starting to counter that the market, I guess, for value in the cards nowadays.
Gotcha. So I'm not very familiar with playing the actual game of Pokemon. Not that I'm familiar with the actual like the whole thing itself.
Yeah.
But there are metas in Pokemon, right? Uh,
and it just really it comes down to not necessarily like it's kind of like Magic the Gathering and the way that it like is kind of seasonal. So it like or even Hearthstone, like it rotates card sets that are in play that are for tournament play during that time, right? And there's
right.
some cards that are just a little more powerful than others. And what is it like groups of having a deck set up this way is going to be the most effective way to win tournaments at that point or the most effective, or the you have the most potential for it as long as you know what you're doing. Because just the way that the cards interact with each other is just more successful than other decks that somebody might make. So in that way, there is a meta but the meta doesn't come out until after like a few weeks into the set usually when people have gotten a
Right,
chance to
right.
play it and try stuff and like do interesting things, and then the players kind of set the meta, right?
Yeah, but there are sets and there are metas. The only reason why I ask is I feel like it's a pretty defining thing that the companies can also do to make it not be more like gambling. Because once you are saying that no, our value in the card is how strong cards are, or how like interesting they are, or maybe you want to build a certain kind of deck. We're encouraging play around this current set of cards. We're not making the old set anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to, these are the cards that we're printing. These are the ones that you want, and this is what you encourage the kids. So I don't know how accurate this is, but I throw Google around to use the Googling machine
Mm-hmm.
that you can build a basic deck of cards for tournament play with a new set and spend just as little as 80 USD to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And it's
which
still
sounds,
useful. Yeah, and it's like
yeah.
it's still
And
a good deck. Like it's not gonna be maybe the best deck out there, but it's the same thing as like the way Hearthstone and Magic has put into effect. Like you can spend $80 and get a like the 90% success rate deck, or you can go and spend $400 and get the 92% success rate deck, right? So it may
right.
not be as exciting to use that deck, but it's more accessible.
Gotcha. And I think we just talked about Hearthstone for a little bit. And Hearthstone, you can't trade your cards with other people. You can't sell your cards in Hearthstone. Uh, now, that's a game that still uses the random pool mechanic. However, there is no player market. So
Right.
in that instance, there's no gambling there. Also, you're just you know that you're paying for a random chance to get cards that you right.
I disagree though, because only in the aspect of like if it's for people that are like serious about playing Hearthstone, like uh, professionally, for example. So if you're going to these tournaments every year that Blizzard throws, or whoever ends up throwing, to be successful there, you still need to pull those like specific cards to make that deck effective. And it's not just one deck at that point; it's multiple decks because you have to be able to. Because I think each time I think for professional play, you need 3 different decks or something.
For
Um,
tournament play, typically, yeah, you
yeah,
bring 3 decks and you have to win with all the decks that you bring in.
exactly. So that's where it's like you run into that little issue of uh, there's a level of gambling that needs to be done, or just like money sunk into the game to be successful at that point. Because Hearthstone's kind of the same way. Like there is a meta that gets built as the season progresses or whatnot. So I,
Yeah,
I think in that one it's a little more regulated as well. If there was an opportunity to trade, then it would devalue the. Uh, I think it would devalue what Blizzard's getting out of it, and I don't think they would ever do that for one thing. But beyond that, I think that it would also devalue the not necessarily the collectability, but the success or the accessibility, I should say, to being able to compete professionally.
gotcha. And I don't want to get too esoteric because I don't want to like lose a general audience base, right?
Hmm.
Hearthstone has a mechanic where if you get extra cards or cards that you don't want, you can turn them into dust. It's like a separate currency,
Hmm.
and you can spend that dust to create the card that you're missing. So kind of similar to uh, a personal or open like player market situation where you can find somebody who has a card that you want and buy it from them. If you're not successful enough getting the card that you want, and there's also bad luck protection against getting the rarest cards, right? Like one in every 40 packs is guaranteed to be a legendary,
Hmm.
and those are the highest rarity cards. I don't know what the odds are without looking, but So there are some mechanics
Yeah.
that are preventing you from spending an exorbitant amount of money, right? Especially if you're just trying to make those decks. I
Hmm.
imagine if you're interested in doing that, especially for tournament play, and you kind of just take it as a cost. But
Hmm.
isn't it possible? Do you have to buy pack? I haven't played Hearthstone in a very long time. Do you have to buy packs with money? Is there an in-game way for you to earn all the cards?
Yeah, so there is an in-game way to earn like a little. There's been little things that they've added to increase the, I guess the accessibility in game, like because like you can use money to buy a large number of packs, for example, but you can also just play games and you get currency within the game by leveling up with a battle pass and whatnot, and you can use that currency that you get from that to turn into single packs. So like 100 in-game currency is a single pack, and you can like as you're leveling up your battle pass, you can earn between 40 and 60 and even up to 150 in some cases uh, as you level that up. So playing the game will get you the packs as well. It's just a much slower process. So say the season is 3 or 6 months. Like how many games do you have to play to get lucky enough to get those 40 packs? And then say this deck requires a specific legendary, not a random one. Now you get a random legendary, and okay, now I got to go back and get 40 more packs to try and get that legendary again. And you could just end up getting the same legendary again, which you could turn into dust and turn into uh, that card down the line. But it's not a one for one exchange at that point. It's a breaking down this legendary gets you 400 dust, and you need 1600 to craft it. So you would
Sure.
need there's still a level of luck and gambling that you're having whenever you're going through that. The gambling is in buying the packs, and then there's a little bit of luck in getting good enough cards that you can break down to, uh, I guess separate luck that you get like better cards. Like gold cards are worth more than the regular. Or just the face value cards, or like I say face value, the non gold cards. I don't know what you call them to be honest, but
Yeah, yeah, base or regular or something
yeah,
like that.
exactly. Like it's like a base card as opposed to a holographic card or something like that. So
Yeah, I think for me personally, I wouldn't consider that system to be gambling, mostly because like the option to pay money to do the pull is what it is. And for me, the requirement is that you have to pay money in order to do it. So I wouldn't consider Hearthstone to be gambling in that regard.
well, it's the same
Uh,
thing as what we were talking about before. It's you have the option to gamble for it. It's not necessarily Hearthstone as a whole is gambling. It
but you
turns
can
into
gamble in
you are able
Hearthstone if
to
you want.
gamble in Hearthstone. Yes, for a advantage, I should say.
So in any instance where like a system is allowing you to spend money to, spin the wheel, so to speak, then
Hmm.
gambling is present.
That's the way I view it at least, and not, and there may be a more or a less no, sorry, definitely a more distinguished way to look at it, or by separating them. But at least in my mind, if there's an opportunity to pay money for an advantage that is not guaranteed, I would look at that as gambling.
I got you. So if we're agreeing that gambling is bad for children,
Hmm.
and even in a lot of ways is bad for adults, people in general, and I think maybe we can get into that discussion a little bit later. And we're identifying there are several, or at least just examples within like the trading cards and maybe even Hearthstone, which is probably the most regulated variation,
Hmm.
from my understanding, because there is no open market for Hearthstone cards. You can play it completely for free, so the barrier of entry is very low, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
Why is this a thing that's allowed to happen? What is it that's making it? We're considering to be gambling. Is it a legal thing? What do you think it is that is like we're allowing our children to do that? I think you would let your kids play Hearthstone. You said you'd let them trade Pokemon cards if they wanted to, also,
Hmm.
right? So,
Yeah, I just wouldn't give them access to my credit card for it. So,
so they're definitely doing the battle pass, like free, like whatever legendary they get. That's the deck that they're going to end up playing. But they run over to you like, Dad, I just looked online and I need an Uber, like I don't know, a super upside down Sylvanas or something like, and I haven't pulled it. Can I get some spins for my birthday? You wouldn't let them do that.
I think if I would look at it as a way to say, I feel like when I have kids, if they want to participate in that, so I look at this as the reason why we allow it to exist is because the free market exists. And while I don't have an issue with that, I have an issue with with people with things being designed to take your money to the extent that there is no protection for people that have say an addiction problem, like an addicted personality to success or something like that. And just in general, everybody likes success. So
Sure. Yep.
it's just some people can regulate better, uh, still feeling successful without having to get that push of adrenaline, essentially by getting something really cool, right? Um,
Yeah. And we know too that children have a harder time regulating this than adults do, right?
mhm,
Why we protect kids from these, right?
right.
But then you get these instances where maybe even in the example that I just brought up to you, where the kids know where their credit card is, the kids know, or it's already hooked up. Then you've seen stories of like um, parents trying to reverse transactions for like $17,000 spent in like Clash of Clans
Yep.
or maybe even on Hearth, something along those lines, because the
Yeah.
kids don't have the control to say that, hey, enough is enough. I got the thing that I wanted, um, or I didn't get it yet, V-Bucks or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
That we're witnessing that, seeing that it's possible. We have evidence and proof of it, and then we also know that there's a direct tie-in with some of these random pull systems and gambling. And we know that gambling is bad and we won't let children do it. So I'm
Mhm.
kind of wondering, like, where did we allow these sorts of systems to kind of make their way into things that are as like accessible as video games are for
Right.
children?
Well, I will say that I think that one of the ways that you're just this a little off, sticking with the topic, but a little bit like slanted there. One of the ways that I think that is you're much more successful at being able to regulate this, and the where we miss that regulation is in teaching the concept of money to children. Like whenever the first time a kid gets a credit card, uh, at least some of the times I've seen where they're just like, hey, this is for emergencies only. Okay, well, hey, I'm having an emergency right now. I need to spend money to get this whatever I'm looking for, right? Whether it be a card in Hearthstone or whether it be that cool new mount or whatever on World of Warcraft so that they can have status or something like that. They don't understand the concept of these two different things, or the concepts of emergencies for one thing, but also the concept of money because they're like, oh, it's just $20. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, well, they don't work for that money, so they don't understand. Okay, well, that $20 is worth, nowadays like an hour and a half of
Yeah,
your time, right? So of you having to work for that $20. So in that respect, I think it would behoove us to basically teach the concept of money earlier on. And it's very difficult because there's a lot of adults that don't understand it either. And I think that's because they didn't get exposed to the concept of money earlier on, and they're just like, okay, well, credit cards, like it's money that I can spend, but I don't have to actually have right now. And okay, well, hey, I like even me, like I had that issue a big issue when I was younger. It's like, okay, I need this new computer now because my current one's not working. So I would consider that an emergency, but it's to play a video game, right? So it's one of those things where there's a failure to understand the concept of how money works, and I think
right.
I think that's just an American, maybe even an international issue, um, but not. I can only speak to the American side of it, of course.
Yeah, I think cognitively that's something that needs to be learned. You're not born understanding the inherent value of money,
Hmm.
like especially with credit cards. Now you don't physically have it in your hands to see it like leave your possession.
Right.
I think that and maybe this is where this is going as well. That um, a lot of companies they further make it more difficult for you to understand exactly how much money you're spending because you don't actually just purchase the thing with the money right out. You are buying a currency and then using that currency to make the
Yeah.
right, like battle net balance
Hmm.
is a thing for Hearthstone. um, I guess gyms in the case of Clash for Clans for that analogy.
Mm,
Um, so now you're not even spending money anymore. You want people or you want children to be like, let's say you did teach your kid the value of money, right? But then like they're young and they really just can't even do the math, you know? They don't know anymore that they're spending $20 every time that they do a pull because it's not $20, 200 gems or 15 butt stones or I don't know, whatever the currency is.
yeah,
Uh, that's something that makes it so much harder to combat. And I imagine that has to be intentional, right? That 100% is intentional. Don't you think?
I think so. I think so, but I just don't understand the psychology behind that from my end. It's something I haven't looked into enough. So
I think it's pretty easy, right? Like, just going to try to see if I can, because I understand it. Um, if you have to buy something, right? Like maybe the new computer or something, you know exactly how much money you have in your bank account,
hmm
maybe, or you have a good idea, depending
yeah,
on how financially literate you are.
hmm
And you know that the thing that you're going to buy will put you in the negative. Would you make that purchase?
no,
No, absolutely
no,
not, because you know you don't have enough money for it, right?
yeah.
Um,
Well, if you
so let's.
I was
Oh,
gonna
go
say
ahead.
in that concept, if you try to go in and say, listen, I only got $1,100. I know that's 1,200. I'll give you this $1,100 and I'll get you later. The company's not gonna like if you walk into Best Buy to try to do that, they're gonna be like, no, get out.
Yeah, I mean, and depending upon how you do it, if you negotiate that with a credit card, like you mentioned earlier, buy now, pay later is a huge thing, right?
mm,
Um, However, we introduce another step. Let's obfuscate this again. And the concept isn't that you wouldn't be able to do this. But think about it. Let's say that the thing that you want to buy is not $200. Let's say $100. Keep the math very simple.
mm,
It's not $100. It's 10,000 schmeckles. Okay. So now you want 10,000 schmeckles. So you got to go buy schmeckles now. And you have like six options that you want to buy for schmeckles, right? You can pay $1 and get 150 schmeckles, or you can pay $100 and you get bonus 250 schmeckles, and then plus 750, and then now you have that whole schmeckle package, right?
yeah.
Like, now you need to figure out how much you need to spend in order to get it. Do
hmm
you think you can tell me whether or not you have enough money to spend the thousand schmeckles on that object that you for off the top of your head? I mean, you could do the math,
Yeah.
right? But you couldn't look at that item and say, I don't have enough for it, right? You
Right.
can no longer do that. Now you're going back and you say, oh, well, it's a deal. It's on sale. Or, I get bonus schmeckles.
Yep.
I'm buying the base package. Like, that is the psychology that's kind of working. I know it's a very crude and like rudimentary example,
No, but it
but
makes sense. Like, and you could even tie that. This is a random way of looking at it, but it's like you look over to uh, I'm sure you've watched The Office, right?
no,
The
no, I
TV.
haven't watched The
Okay.
Office.
Well, it's a TV show about office life, right? And there's one character that at one point when he takes over the office as a temporary manager, essentially, he's like, okay, so I'm like every time you guys do something good, I'm gonna give you one Schrute buck, and it's just a piece of paper with a like a picture of a dollar with his face on it, right? And
Okay.
he's like, okay, so and every 100 Schrute bucks you get, you can turn that into 5 extra minutes for lunchtime or whatever. And everybody's like, okay. And people started, as somebody in the show that messes with him a lot is like, what's the value of a Schrute buck? And it's like he's like 1/1000th of a cent. And they're like, okay, so if we get 1,000 of these, or 10,000 of these, or was it 100,000, you'll get a dollar. Like you'll pay us a dollar or something like that. And he's like, yes. He's like, okay. He's like, and they started joking around. It's like a lot of them weren't interested in that awards program that he was building for the office, and somebody else was like, oh yeah, what is the conversion rate of one Schrute buck to a Stanley nickel, or something like that, and they started making jokes about it. But I see that even in that concept is that okay, well, there's a dollar value to this reward point or whatever, but there's I guess a difficulty in understanding once you start transferring it between these currencies. What actual value does that hold? And it once you've converted it into one of these other currencies, it holds no value for the world except for in that specific venue, right? So,
Correct. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's what a lot of companies will want to do to make sure that when you do make the conversion, you're only able to spend it within that realm,
Hmm.
which kind of locks up
With
more of your
them,
currency. Yeah,
exactly.
with them. Exactly right. And then they can actually give you their own fake currency as rewards for things.
Hmm.
And it only gives them increased value because they own all of it already.
Yeah,
But that's a different.
yeah,
You now can see how easy it can be to obfuscate the fact that if I can't tell you how much real dollar it is directly, it's a lot harder for me to regulate, try to even make that purchase
right.
for
And
myself.
and since everybody uses different conversion rates for these currencies, it doesn't make it's hard to understand between the
Right. And
different venues.
and even if it was just about tying the dollar down, how many of these companies would even do a one-to-one conversion? Because then you would know, right? Like that's a dollar. I spent the dollar, I got a dollar. This is a dollar.
Yeah.
I'm spending a dollar. And then there you go. The kind of illusion is kind of broken.
Hmm.
I think that that is clear that there is some research being done. People are spending money to figure out how to get people to spend money more. I
Hmm.
think that we know that that's been a thing. It's widely accepted in advertising,
Right.
and now these companies are now utilizing it. So now we are talking about like these sorts of forces that are kind of coercing us to, or even getting us used to spending money in these systems. And I don't
Hmm.
want to get too far away from gambling because um, there is an aspect of like predatory purchases. There's like where they like set you up to spend to click to do the misclicks. I forget what that stuff's called, like dark.
I'm starting to see that with Facebook nowadays, actually. So, do you know what Facebook Reels are?
They are no, I know what Instagram Reels are,
It's the
and
same
Facebook and
thing.
Instagram are the same company, so I'm imagining that's the same thing. Yeah.
It's the exact same concept. It's just when you're scrolling through your timeline, you see a video. Okay, you click on that video, you're watching it. Okay, cool. And then you scroll on to the next one. You can swipe up, switch to the next, like another video. It doesn't have to have anything to do with what you just watched, but it could be something that the algorithm has recognized that you're interested in that. Well, they used to pop up ads at like in between these videos, and they still do. It's like you'll swipe up and it'll go to a short like reel of a ad for a company or something like that, and you're like, no, no, I don't
Mhm.
want to watch that, so you just swipe on to the next. Well, nowadays they've added these little boxes at the bottom. It's just like a pop-up in like on your computer when you access a website where you have to hit the little X and it goes away, or
Mhm.
you can swipe it and it goes away as well, or it opens up into a new window. Well, Facebook has got it down to a T now that when you are scrolling through, you get one of these ad pop up, but you want to see the whole video. So you reach down, and the timing on it is perfect. That when you reach down to hit that X, it moves over slightly so that now you click on the ad automatically.
Yo, wait, really?
It's an actual thing. It's been happening to me a lot recently, and I sent a message to support to say, hey, that's really predatory. You shouldn't be doing that. That's going to land you a lawsuit, because not only is it like tricking the customer or us, the people that are consuming the content, but it's also tricking the customer that are
The
buying the ads
advertiser?
from them, because
Yeah.
at that point, then you get pissed at Facebook, but you're getting pissed at the ad as well because you didn't want to go into that ad. And it's tricking them because it's tricking them to say, oh, they clicked on the ad, so you have to pay us for this view.
Right.
That's
Uh,
super predatory, in my opinion. So,
so yeah, I hinted it a bit earlier, but I wanted to go back and clear it. It's called a dark pattern. That's when
dark pattern.
yeah, it's when the user interface has been made maliciously. I don't know, maliciously is the right word, but with the intent to kind of trick you into doing something that you didn't want to do, right? I mean, I saw this. This first time I heard the term recently
Hmm.
with Diablo 4. Um, you are like one like input away whenever you like open the season screen to make a purchase to buy the season. And if you pay for like the deluxe version of the game because you like Diablo a lot,
Hmm.
they give you a free pass into any of the seasons that you want, so you can hold on to it and use it whenever you want. Right. And I understand now this has been fixed. For a while, it wasn't fixed, And if you purchased it, that was it. Like you unlocked it, and now you're locked into the season. You want to be a part of it. So I mean, these are deliberate practices that are put in by companies. Like if you ever like were experiencing something, or maybe if you see like kids messing around an app, and you're like, how did you get there? Like what happened?
What does
Like
that have
that
to do
stuff.
with what you were looking at before?
Yeah, that stuff
Yeah.
is not only real, but it's deliberate. And
Hmm.
that's like, I don't know, that's scary to me, honestly. I just think that we're eroding the barriers into these sort of predatory practices and even leading into gambling a lot earlier. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
that the best ways to do that, especially for children, is with video games. If you can get them used to the idea of spending money in a video game, then you can kind of coerce them down the line to either continue to make those kinds of purchases, or you're actually setting them up. Um, I don't know how much I trust the sources, but I'm willing to believe some of this that I'm reading. I don't know, right? The idea of like developing a gambling addiction increases uh, substantially when you're exposed to these sorts of systems very early on, like in your life. You start to normalize it. And like you mentioned earlier, it's very important that we teach our children at an early age about the value of money and about, exactly what it is that they're doing. But then you have on the other side, you have these institutions that build systems to fight back against you training them, just like I mentioned earlier about you teaching the value of a dollar. Okay, well, let's not get them spending dollars anymore. Now they're going to make it harder. They're going to spend schmeckles now, you
Hmm.
know, and you, the list. I mean, I'm guessing going on, right? But once you get hooked into gambling, it's so difficult to stop. From my understanding, right? Because you start chasing your losses. There's like gambler's fallacies. Um, you're encouraged to do it regularly. The dopamine high is pretty big. Like when you actually hit, and my understanding is that these machines that you gamble onto, the slight slot machines particularly, uh, are designed to invoke these experiences in you and
Hmm.
reinforce they actually play on the fact that it feels a lot worse to lose money than it does to win it.
Yeah.
So the losses are small over time, but the wins are big all at once.
Yeah.
Sudden, and that just like psychologically they're hooking your brain, man. And that to me, when I visited that casino last week, I could see like, yeah, they're not advertising it. There's no signs out that says "Come gamble now, lose your house." Like nothing
Yeah.
like that. Obviously, they're not saying those. Um, but when you actually go in there, like we walked in there, it is just so easy to sit down and play. Like there's tons of machines that are like, "Hey, put your money in, get a ticket. You don't even have to convert it. Just feed it into the slot right here." Um, there's like a spot for you to charge your phone. Like they have the wireless like mag chargers or whatever. You can just set your phone down. Now your phone is charging.
Yep.
There's free drinks.
Yep.
If you smoke, there's a smoking section. You don't have to get up, right?
Yeah.
You want to drink. There's some people that'll come over and bring you alcohol. Like it is just super easy to just sit down and be like, all right, what I'm doing. And I get that. If you're gambling and you know that you're gambling and that's what you want to do, that's great. Personally, like I don't have a problem with the gamble. If you want to gamble, you know that you want to gamble and you're going to gamble your life away. That's your problem.
Yep.
You need to deal with that. You need to take responsibility for it. You need to get help. I understand that like you are responsible for your own life in that regard. But I also know that, I can't look around at the institutions. I can't look around at the government and say, you guys are responsible for protecting these people from
Oh
themselves.
yeah. 100%. It's not the government's responsibility because then it turns into something much much worse basically and takes away some of your freedom as a customer at that point.
I also know at the end of the day that like if you want to gamble, you're gonna go gamble. Like you can't gamble in Texas. I'm gonna take a road trip up to Oklahoma. I'm gonna do that.
Yep.
Like people use VPNs. They spoof their locations. They will lobby and petition for gambling to be a thing. If they want to gamble, hey, you know what? Let them gamble.
Yep.
But then my issue too is that we understand the danger of gambling. It's inherent. But there is nothing there by like the institutions or maybe in some extent for the government to counteract any of that. You know what
Right.
I mean? So it feels like, I don't know, it feels really, really cruel and almost evil to some extent to just like they're inviting this. and they're allowing this to happen. And they're I mean, people want to do it. I get it. If nobody gambled, people just were like collectively like, fuck, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not gambling. I'm not
Then
spending money on that.
then it would go
Then
away. Yeah.
yeah, it would go away. Obviously, people want to do this,
Mhm.
and I think you can gamble responsibly and have fun doing it. Like if
Mhm.
you know, hey, I'm gonna go in with $200. I might lose $200, but that's it. I'm going for the $200. Playing within that realm of $200, then that's very safe. You're gonna get your highs. You may get a couple lows, but you got off that roller coaster, right?
Right.
Um, or even like gambling in such a sense where your knowledge of what you're doing counteracts a lot of the randomness that's involved. Like I think poker, for example, is a really good example of high randomness, but also high skill.
Yeah.
If you're skilled enough to do the right thing in the right situation, you can be a successful poker player.
Right.
Like at that point, you are still gambling,
Mhm.
but totally in control. Like you mentioned stocks as well. I feel stocks is the same way, except for it's a lot lower risk for stocks and therefore like a lot less high rewards. If
Right.
you are knowledgeable about what's happening, you can make profitable trades consistently in such a way that you win more often than you lose
Mhm.
against the market. People make successful money, like regular money, doing this all the time. Day trading is a thing that you can absolutely do. Uh, is there a gambling component involved in it? Absolutely. However, you do have some tangible control over the outcome. And you can point to that event and say, okay, I can learn from that and I can differ. You're sitting down, you're spinning a machine. The odds are already determined for you. The machine is designed to pay out at a certain time,
Well,
because, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and what's better is that the way that it's set up also is that okay, well they've got tons of these machines set up. All of a sudden you hear across the room, ding 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 ding, winner 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 or whatever. Then you're like, okay, cool, somebody else won, so this is a legit thing. Like I can actually do this, and you want to
Correct.
keep putting money in the machine. So
I
yeah.
just like, I think that like you can put all those barriers up in front of people. Like you can put the odds of what it would be to win that jackpot. I know when I looked around, I saw like a lot of the machines at the very top. It'll tell you jackpot currently at $18,000, jackpot currently at 150 grand, whatever the case may be
Mhm.
for that machine, right? Um, but how much harder would it be, or how much beneficial to that person would it be if they put the odds next to it? 1 in 6 million chance to hit this jackpot right here. Okay, that to me seems a lot more realistic. At least you know what you're engaging with,
Yeah.
right? Like,
But
that to me,
yeah, I agree. But also, if I saw 1 in 6 million, I wouldn't be gambling at that machine.
yeah. But see,
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? Because you're able to cognitively evaluate better now that you have the information,
Yeah.
whether or not you want to do it. If you really want to gamble and you're like, shit, man, I got a 1 in 6 million. I'm feeling lucky, baby. Sign me up. Then you know straight up when you didn't hit, it's because you spun a 1 in 6 million and you landed on the one or the 6 million and not the one.
Yeah.
You know, it's that like it must be me or it's got to be ready to pay off soon, or like I'm gonna manifest it. Like
Yeah.
you are like I'm not saying that you're advertising it, but you're definitely not necessarily putting the full truth out
Right.
there. I think I would like to see more full truth out there. I think you see this with some cigarette companies, right? That they have to put like that it causes cancer, or some of them have to advertise it with like rotting teeth or something on the
Mhm.
pack, or whatever. I think they do that in the UK. I'm not 100% certain on where it is that they do that.
Yeah.
So that people understand at face value what it is that they're getting into. Hey, cigarettes are addictive. They cause cancer, and look what can happen to your mouth. Like,
Mhm.
okay, great. I'm gonna light up. I want the buzz. I want the rush. I brush my teeth. Like, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah.
You get to now accept the terms of engagement before you commit that act, right? That
Right.
to me seems fair, right? I don't know. Gambling is that's not something that I see that you would do. I mean, casino specifically, I should say. Maybe gambling holistically across the board. You're not always fully aware. Anytime there's a random component, maybe you should know the odds. I'm not 100%, or at least you should be able to find them. I bet you can look it up, but who's going to do that?
Right.
Who's gonna end up at a casino going and do that? And like you said, maybe at that point you wouldn't even want to play anymore once you knew what the odds were like. It's like
Right.
now the stock's starting to sound a lot less random to me. Like
Yeah.
than the slot machine is.
Oh yeah, I never thought it was because there's still like even with poker the same way that but also you got to think about with poker at least. So a casino has to have like a Texas Hold'em table. They have to, right? But you're going to notice that there's a lot less, say, poker tables as there are blackjack tables
Right.
or any of those, and that's because the the casino's not making money off that because that's just players paying each other at that point,
Right.
right? So I don't know, and it's not necessarily that I'm getting into that it's a deceptive way to uh, like do things, but it's just obvious where where they're making money is they're going to put the most of those machines or whatever, and that's why stock or slot machines are very like much more common than a lot of these others where there is a like there's sometimes some level of skill in them like blackjack or with poker. So that's the way I look at it at least. And there it could be different for at least the slot machines that like you have to like click it at the perfect timing or something like that, but even those it's not always to the player's advantage, right? So
Yeah, but is that a game of is that a game of skill? Like, does your input actually make a difference when you're trying to like line things up?
I
Like
think
you is it an illusion of control? Like with the what was that like the pachinko whatever thing where you're dropping the ball down? Like they don't even let you drop the ball anymore, but you can pick where it goes.
that's that I see that I see that there is some level there's some level of skill there, but it's like so restrictive that it's exactly as you said. It's kind of an illusion of control. Like if you have like I don't know if there's a one like a millisecond that you have to press this button in to make this to line these up, but you have a million milliseconds that you could possibly hit to make it or that could be used as an input. It's like yeah, same thing as like 1 out of 10,000 inputs is correct, but those other 990 or 9,999 inputs are gonna make you fail basically. I feel like that's kind of the way that those machines go.
And I don't know if this is conspiracy land, but if they really wanted to, where like the window of success is so small, they could just rig it so that you actually can't hit it. It could
Exactly.
skip over the frame until it's ready to pay out. And then when it's ready to pay out, then they'll allow it to happen. And then you can actually hit the frame.
Exactly.
And then
And I've
yeah.
seen that happen before. But I also look at have you ever call out to another YouTube channel here for a second? But Mark Rober, the old NASA engineer. Have you seen any
Yeah.
of his videos? Yeah, so he built a backpack or like some little machine that is meant to always hit the jackpot whenever you're playing the little arcade game at like Chuck E. Cheese or something like that. And it's that like big spinning like light game or whatever, the one that goes in a big circle and you have to try and
Right.
stop it on your spot or whatever to get the jackpot. Well, it's
Yeah.
like that, and it wasn't always successful. But if it's a computer doing it that always calculates it perfectly, how is it not always a consistent result? And that's because the variables change as the game continues to be played, right? So it's just confirming what you're talking about. So
Very, 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 very insidious opinion. I guess like we could talk about the issues that we have and the prevalence of gambling in society. Like I think that one of the major things is that there are a large number of people that gamble every year
hmm
um, on a yearly basis. I think I read somewhere that the report is up to almost 80% of adult Americans gamble on a yearly basis.
that's crazy.
Right?
I didn't think it would even be that many. I figured it'd be a number of people consistently, and then a small. It's kind of like I don't know. Sorry, I'm referring to a South Park episode now. You just keep going.
Yeah, I'm thinking like if the definition of what they're defining gambling to be, like it could be scratch offs, it could be casinos or whatever the case. Like I could see that being a number, right? But like that just like underscores the point in my opinion just more than anything else. Like this is a really accessible thing that a lot of people know and can do. And if adults are susceptible to it, then children are obviously a lot more susceptible to it. And I don't necessarily know, like when I was growing up, I'm fairly certain I was taught that gambling was bad. You can gamble and like lose everything.
Mhm.
Don't gamble with more than you have, et cetera, et cetera. But no, I don't think anyone in my family could have prepared me for psychological hooks that could be set in me from a very early age that can kind of encourage these sorts of things to happen.
Right.
Uh, I think that these guys have huge tools at their disposal to get you into gambling, but we're not really putting this information um, in front of our kids. We're not putting it in front of the people that are gambling to help them combat against the addiction that can follow afterwards, because really that's where it starts to become problematic. If you
Right.
gamble like $200 a year and you lose it and you're complaining about it, hey, you're a dummy. You did that yourself. You know what you got. I'm not saying that only people who are addicts like could get help or need help or whatever the case may be, but you now are starting to see a different level of harm whenever we're talking about addicts,
Hmm.
where they are unreasonable at this point, can't stop themselves, they're chasing losses, et cetera, et cetera. And that's rough. I mean, especially like if these people are finding they're in these situations and they don't really know how to stop. I think it's important that they know that there are resources out there to help them.
Mm.
um, but ultimately they like you have to accept responsibility for your role in it as the gambler, that you're the one that's doing it. And I know that a lot of people are doing it, but or can accept it rather, sorry, but you've got some agency to try to seek some help to like stop this from
Right.
occurring again. And if you can be coerced into doing it, as difficult as it seems, you also can beat that addiction, whatever method you need to use. There's a myriad of them that are available. And I know that we're talking a lot about the problems with it, but I wanted to also talk about like what maybe some potential solutions are, maybe a bit more directly. Like we know that they're there. What do you think is like the best way to combat gambling addiction?
I think for me at least, it's staying connected with people and also finding other hobbies that are that can create that same level of excitement, but has to do with your skill, maybe your ability, and it could be just something as simple as just playing, I don't know, playing like Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, where there's still a level of luck that's involved there, where you can like you roll to try and get a successful, whatever it might be, like a to block an arrow with your shield or something against one of your buddies that happens to be standing next to you. Like that would be super cool to still I would see that as a way to still like have some level of like luck, some level of excitement, and something that you have a little less control over than something as perfect as you have control of that character and you can put your shield up in front of them or whatever, something like that. But this is just an example, of course, really nerdy example for that matter. But uh, there are other things you can do out there that will not that will not that are not risky enough to put you like to make you homeless or something like that, right? Um, but outside of that, it's just maintaining contact with family and friends and spending time with them. And if you feel like you do have a problem, if you're getting put into a situation where you're not able to control yourself anymore, you really need to talk to somebody about that. It's there is success in being able to deal with it on your own, but it's not perfect, right? It's not 100% guaranteed. And if you've got some level of support from people that care about you and want you to be successful, to succeed, they will hopefully look out for your best interests as well when it comes to avoiding behaviors or activities that are in some regard self-destructive.
Right. I totally agree with what you're saying, especially you're talking about tying family in to that situation. Like, I think that's 100% real. Like, I think I don't know, like, what the correlation is between people, but it could be like when you're struggling with any level of addiction, it could be really shameful to experience that. And I think a lot of times people feel like they're alone when that happens. Um, I don't know if I can relate on a direct level. For a long time, I would consider myself to have
an addictive personality. But I think maybe as I'm growing older, I'm realizing that I could just really invest my entirety of my attention into one thing, even if it's like mundane or boring. I just enjoy random things, seemingly random things, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but like everything in moderation is something that is realistic. But like as you get older, you get more responsibilities, then you know you don't have as much time for those things anymore. And just knowing that you're going to have to make those sacrifices is what kind of pulled it out for me. But I say all that to say that like um, moderation is important, and instant gratification I feel like is the enemy of long term happiness.
Hmm.
Right? If you're taking the quick win or the easy win, it's really easy for like fast and then high dopamine hits to get hooked into something like that. Um, they talk about like it like fries your brain, but like you only have a certain capacity for that level of excitement, and you can to some extent build up some tolerance to it where you need more and more in order for you to get that same initial feeling.
Right.
I think getting that feeling from other places can be important, can be exciting. But like you mentioned earlier too, like just having other things to do, like that also helps out a lot. And kind of trying to like invest in your long term happiness can also be a really important thing.
Hmm.
Um, like as not sexy as it sounds, like investing in stocks and like playing the long game, where you could in theory hit that like $18,000 jackpot if you just don't touch the money for 20 years. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
for the same spend cost.
Yep.
But that's not sexy at all, is it? Like I want to be able to put $5 in right now and walk away a half a millionaire.
Yeah.
That's really exciting. And some people do that.
Yep.
Who knows like what it cost them to get there, but that it does happen.
Yep. Maybe they spent half a million already, and they finally got that money back.
Right now I can go buy my house again. Like I don't
Yeah.
know. Like it's just
Yeah.
it can be rough, I imagine.
Yeah.
But I say that to say like um yeah, definitely friends and family, definitely like occupying yourself with other things maybe is very helpful. I'm not a therapist or a psychologist or any of that. I know that addiction can be difficult. So seeking professional help, I think, once you realize or you think that you have an issue, or even you know somebody who does, uh, suggest that they seek some sort of profession for what they've got going on. There are rehab centers in every state specifically for this. There are groups where people get together and they talk about their issues and they work them out, and those things are available, right? Like
Hmm.
some of I know for my company that there are employee assistance programs that will pay for some of these types of services,
Yep.
um, and that's huge. It's good to know what your options are, and ultimately too, I think if these guys are going to invest, who knows, millions of dollars into doing the research to get you hooked in, then you also have to do your own research into getting unhooked or to making sure you don't get hooked in, because they're not holding the punches. The casinos aren't holding the punches. The video game companies aren't holding the punches. They are going to operate a business. And if you are going to be the one who is engaging with it, then you deserve to lose your money. You're giving it to them. So I would always say like educate yourself, know what the risk is, know what your odds are, and
Yeah.
and
And know
and
what your
educate
limits
yourself.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because everybody's
but
different.
that's rough. I don't know. Like I certainly see the danger of it. It's that lack of control, but not having the knowledge to build those barriers is what I feel like it's what gets people and throws them off the edge. Um, I don't know. I'm obviously not speaking from experience, but I do definitely have a disdain for companies and corporations that know that they're essentially, scamming people out of their money, so to speak.
Yeah.
I question like if you're in control of your rake back, like if the casino can set how much money pays out, how much do they need to profit in order to keep themselves operating? Obviously, it's more than breaking even, right? So they've got to take more money than they give out, but how much, right? Um, how much should it be? How much is too much? They can control it,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
They can set.
was gonna say even your reference about or referencing you talking about going to Choctaw. Like if you go and look at a picture of Choctaw from 20 years ago and look at what it is now, there's a massive difference. And they were all getting paid during that time too. So how much money did they make during that time to continue to expand to make this a more like a resort where people can come and stay for a long time and then spend even more money on them, so that they could continue to grow this as a and to the extent where they're also giving out free drinks all the time, as you were saying, and like recharging your cell phone for free, like powering that or whatever. There's a lot. It's very interesting that they're able to justify for the big thing is like free drinks. That's the big thing for me, and still make profit enough that they pay all their employees, make a lot of money for themselves, and they continue to expand their business and just make their resort larger, right? So,
Yeah. I guess one of the points that we didn't really touch on yet is there's also the online casino, right? Like, how are you familiar with any of those? Like, I know the big number of people are throwing around it's like Stake and their affiliation with Kick.
yeah. Oh, like CS:GO. Kidding, kidding. But there, there is some. I mean, I feel like there is a little bit of truth behind that as well. Because if you go and if you go look in the marketplace right now, let's see, camera decided to freak out. If you go and look at the marketplace for, say, just individual random cases or whatever, random cases, you can get some cases that are like 50 cents, some are like $1. I've seen some that are like $10, some that are 15, 20, 30, $40 cases that you can buy from each other, and then you spend another $2.50 for a key that you can use to open that case, and there's a really small chance that you get a special skinned knife that you can sell for $2,000. There's like that. That's kind of crazy to me. Now the difference in that I can see with regular, I guess some of these other games and their gambling, the way that it is that technically there's a way that you can get your money back out of that. And in that way, I think that it's even it's a little more like real world gambling, but it's accessible to children a little better because parents and families they always go and they'll get you like those Steam cards or whatever. Here's a $50 Steam card for your birthday. Like, I hope you get like, what kind of game are you going to buy? Oh, I'm not going to buy games. I'm going to go buy CS:GO crates and then maybe get like $2,000 out of it and then go and just keep doing it or whatever. Or, hey, you got $2,000 now in your Steam wallet. Now you can go buy a whole bunch of games or something like that, right? So,
Wait. I am not familiar with CS:GO like at all. I
okay.
know that there's a whole case thing where you're
Mhm.
talking about the way you explained it with the skins and stuff, but you 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 do all that with Steam balance?
Yep. So you can. So it's you can go into your Steam balance or whatever. Say I have $10 in my balance right now. I can go and I can buy a CS:GO case for, like I said, 3, 4, 5, 15, 16, 20, 30, $40 or whatever. And then I can go buy from Steam themselves. I can spend $2.50 to get a key that I can open one of these cases with, right? So you potentially, and there's some cases that you get for there's some keys that are more expensive, but for the most part, the ones that are current, you spend $2.50 to get those, from my understanding. And there's a chance that you can get a knife skin in there that's worth around $2,000. If you sell that on the marketplace to another player, now you've got $2,000 in your Steam balance, so you can go and spend that on something like you can get one of the new Steam decks or something, or one of the what's the VR hardware that what do they call it for Steam? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know what Steam's is.
Yeah, so you can get one of those, and you can turn around, get that out or whatever, sell it, on eBay or Real World somewhere to somebody else, and you technically pull that money out of Steam. So there's ways that you can get your money back out of that, or you can just get things that are, benefit you, right? So there's a very low chance that you get something like that. But that's yeah, that's just something that's kind of interesting to think about. But back to what you were talking about with these online casinos that do streams and like people play in poker online or they play blackjack online with these casinos. That's a difficult one. That's a really difficult one. I think it makes gambling more accessible for people, which sucks for it's gonna suck for some people because of like say addiction and such. But I don't know. I'm of the mind that I don't like that it exists, because there's also opportunities that you can lie about your age online, and I know that there's some websites that safeguard it, but it's like, hey, you have to provide proof of ID, provide a scan of your face to prove that you are this person or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's others that they don't have that level of security. They're just like, hey, you got money? Cool. You, did you say, like, it's the same thing as like the liquor websites. It's like, are you 21 or up? And it's like, anybody can just hit yes, and now they can view the website, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oof. That's kind of spooky. I don't know, man. It just, I think it's too like dangerous because like those a lot. My understanding is that the online casinos can be based like in countries across the world, different like rules and regulations.
Right.
So like you're connecting to them, and you can bypass like country specific, state specific rules, especially if you use a VPN. And like you mentioned before, the gambling is a bit more accessible in that regard. What do you think of like? I mean, I'm specifically talking about stake in this regard, and I was like, maybe there are others. I'm not exactly sure, but this is just what I'm familiar with. That they are basically the parent company for Kick, and the idea is that if you have an affiliation with Kick, now you have an affiliation with Stake, and if you support Stake, then you now support gambling. Do you think that that connection is consistent, or do you think that that is that those streamers are too far removed to be effectively advertising gambling just by streaming on that platform?
Um, that's a difficult one. I guess it depends. I guess it depends on how much like advertisement is coming from Stake to Kick, for example. So, are they giving themselves, beneficial ad time, or like or advantageous ad time? Are they giving? Are they creating like locations on Kick that allow them to push people to Stake more easily, I guess, or are they using it as a front to basically get more traffic type thing?
I don't think so. I don't think there's ads on Kick either. Um,
Okay.
but I know you can stream gambling, slots, and casino. I know you can stream that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would be hard pressed to like move around. But my understanding is that if you go to Kick, that there is really no way for you to get to Stake from Kick, like the website. So I don't think that that's the case. But you have to know what the parent affiliation is. I guess
Mm.
you say it's difficult, but if you were going to like make that connection between the streamers and then the parent company, would you then say that the people who stream on Twitch support the gambling practice? Not sorry, the I'm not trying to say the working conditions and like the all the stuff that Amazon does that they're in trouble for. I don't
Right.
know why I'm drawing a blank right now, but would you make that connection?
Well, let me give you an example right now of what I saw just loading up the website. So it
Okay.
shows 3 featured streams by me just loading the website. The first one is the LCS Championship Final for League of Legends. The next it has 1,500 viewers. The next one has 170 viewers, and it's a female DJ, um, you know, uh, doing her craft, like actually like DJing, right? Cool. The third one is has 2,300 viewers. The title of the stream is "Huge Bonus Buys!" Exclamation stake for our 200% welcome. And in the bottom left corner, it says exclusive 200% first deposit bonus for signing up with Stake through this streamer.
So the streamer themselves is the one that's
And
promoting Stake, not
and
the
it's like
website.
10% of what you're seeing on the screen. And but that's what I'm getting at is like, are they giving favorable like featured viewers to people that are advertising their website? So people that are partnered with them.
I don't know. How would you know that?
I'm just looking at the I'm just looking at the front page here. Both the other two do not have It doesn't look like they have any like. Yeah, it doesn't look like they have anything leading to like an advertising partner. But this one, so 33% of the featured streams on the front page are leading people to stake. So it's one of those things where it's like I don't know, and maybe that's not even planned at all, but that's the way that it comes off just on initial look.
Well, I guess when you first are on the landing page, that's certainly true. I don't know, like playing devil's advocate, but that's not all the features. Like I click on the left, there's another one. This guy is complaining about his luck, and there appears to be a stake sponsorship on there. But there are definitely more regular streams. I think there's 2 out of 9, which I guess is that because they've got a lot of views or no? This is DJ has a lot less views and is on the featured streams.
Yeah, and see that's the thing though. But I'm flipping through them now just to get a better idea of the featured streams. The next page has 100 people watching this guy freestyle. Another one is 3,500 people watching Odablock play old school RuneScape. One is Amaranth. Not going to get into that.
Hey,
And
that's a different conversation.
it's a whole another one. And then the third page, another person with a stake advertisement, and he's literally playing blackjack on the front screen. The stake advertisement's taking up about 15% of the screen for this one, so it's just like I said, it's just the way that it's coming off, right? It seems like there are a lot of featured people that are playing.
I could see that. So how does that help you answer your question at all?
Maybe a little bit, but even still, it's one of those. It's very ambiguous, right? So you don't know for sure if that's what is actually being done, because there are other people like playing League of Legends, just chatting. There's people doing DJing. There's people playing old school RuneScape on here, or I think this guy's like Ubering or something like that. But he's just chatting. I don't know. Maybe not. No, he's just doing a IRL VOD, whatever. Anyways, but yeah, it's just interesting is all I'm getting at. So,
Yeah.
but like okay, so here's a little better way to put it. Top live categories in order. The first one is just
Okay.
chatting with 51,000. The second live category is slots and casinos with 46,000, and after that it falls off to 13,000 people. Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah, but is that by demand? Is it because they don't have anywhere else to go to stream slot?
It could be. It could be. But
And is that Stake's fault?
it depends on how many of them are sponsoring on there, I guess.
They're just going to a platform where they're allowed to stream what they're doing, and people obviously want to watch it. Look how many views there are.
Yeah.
People want to watch. I mean, maybe they're also gambling, and I don't know what else like going on, but
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it gives people, I think, a little bit more motivation to go and gamble by doing something like this. Because like even you look at I just jumped into that category just to verify. First view or the top streamer, yep, stake. Second top stake. Third top stake. Fourth top stake. Fifth top stake. Sixth, seventh, both have stake advertisements. So it's just interesting, right? And I don't know.
right.
I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it, right? So it's like I'm all about people going to the free market, going where they are accepted, going where they can make their money. That's great. But specifically with gambling, I don't. It feels like it makes it more accessible, if that makes sense. And that's where I'm just not 100% on board with yet.
I got you. I think I totally understand where you're coming from when you say that. I don't know. I personally, I've watched a lot of. I want to say a lot. I've watched a few, like a pretty good amount of hours of them gambling stream,
Mm-hmm.
and there is an entertainment value to it. Like I mentioned personally, I don't have the personal drive to gamble. I
Yeah.
don't gamble. I don't do the online stuff either. But I have seen it, so I guess in a way, I've I've encouraged it. I don't have a problem with gambling, but some of these, some especially being advertised to children, I've got my own contentions with. But I've seen it, and it's not even exactly sure like these guys are enjoying what they're doing so far.
Yeah.
But it's like you're definitely just putting entertainment value and chasing these big wins, and everybody wants to be there for the big win, and there's a log. I was here, you know, and that's why people want to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the entertainment value associated to it. Um, is it possible, right, to get the same experience without there being money involved?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because I think that I think it all comes down to the same thing. Going back to what I was talking about with like trading cards, like with Pokemon, when you see all these streamers go on, even on YouTube or whatever, and all these places, they went and they spent money on these packs, whatever it might be, whatever amount, and as they're going through them, they'll do like openings on live streams or whatever, and then when they get that pull, like that really amazing pull, like the big hit, they're just like ah, and they start freaking out the same way as if as if they just won the $10,000 jackpot on Lotto. So, and I
Yeah.
think that's where it ties in. So, I think you can still get that from something that's not so risky, but at the same time, I don't think you can take money out of it. I don't think you can. I think that's where the dopamine hit comes from. It's like the value that you get out of getting that specific thing.
Okay, maybe I should rephrase the question a bit because I agree with what you're saying that staking the money is the important part. It wouldn't even be gambling anymore. What if it was just an illusion, right? Like you actually weren't losing any money because you weren't actually putting the money in, but everybody thought you were. Do you think that there's something wrong with that?
Can you give an example of what you mean, just so I better understand?
Okay, so let's say that whatever gambling stream you were just pulling up, right? You can see it, and you can see how much balance they have. You can see how much they're betting. It's all in USD, right? Let's say, for the sake of argument, that those numbers were an overlay, and they weren't real. Like I'm spinning the slot machine, I'm not actually spending any money at all, but it looks like I am. The crowd, the audience thinks that I am. I'm reacting as though that I am. Well, it's a huge hit. It feels huge. Like you're still
I see what you're
maybe,
saying. So it's
yeah,
almost like they created their own flash game or something and made it look like it was on this website, or like they're faking the machine itself, like saying, "Hey, I put in this money," but really it's just they tweaked it and said like this. It's like if you bought a game off Steam where you didn't actually put money into it, but it made you feel like it was a slot machine type thing, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that would be super predatory, like 100% at that
O-
point, because there's
Only if
no
you're
reason.
advertising it as gambling, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because that's the thing. Even on like if you see like videos for the Choctaw Casino, you don't necessarily the ad isn't for the gambling portion of Choctaw Casino. It's for the fact that it's a resort.
Yeah. I don't think that they can.
That
Can they
that
advertise the
I don't know. That's a great question. That's what I'm getting at. So what if this is all an advertisement then? So is that I don't know. Is it legal to advertise? Uh, Without permission, advertisers can run ads that promote physical, real money gambling activity or establishments like brick and mortar casinos, entertainment events at casinos, or the streaming of offline poker tournaments that provide the ad or destination. Okay, that's just how. It might just be who you're trying to advertise through that it becomes an issue, and that's probably
Okay.
based on policy then, because like you can't do it on Instagram, you can't do it on we don't really see gambling on TV outside of like movies, TV shows, and when like Choctaw or WinStar come out and like say, "Hey, come visit us. We've got a great resort." And you can also gamble. They state it, but they don't really show gambling. They don't show the big wins and stuff like that. They just show, "Hey, you can have a good time here just to come and relax and vacation" type thing.
Gotcha. They're
So
not they're not trying to display like the part about coming isn't go to casino. It's to enjoy the resort.
Exactly. That's at least the way that I'm seeing it. But
Hey, you know what? I think I don't know. I think it's
sorry, I
fun.
think I just from Walter's Law Group, the current federal law prohibiting the broadcast advertising of gambling activities, presumably including internet gambling, is the Communications Act of 1934.
Oh, look at that. So they really
So
can't
there
do
is
it.
something. So in that way, I, I guess streaming is the way to get around that. That's the only thing I can think of, is that streaming is the way to get around it, because they're not doing it for the advertisement. They're not paying them to advertise.
But the act of them doing it is advertising.
But
They
they're
are
paying them to be professional gamblers and streaming their activity online.
no. They're paying them to be professional streamers streaming their gambling on.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I think because it seems crazy to me when you think about it like that. If you like, advertising is massive. People spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on advertising. And when you look at some of the deals that some of these guys get from Kick to stream, especially the ones that are doing the game, how much deals that they get from stake themselves to stream. And I know those two things aren't directly correlated, but these guys have money for it. They don't have to spend money on advertising. They're putting it in these people to play the games and advertise that they're enjoying doing it.
Mm-hmm. And give them sign-up codes that get them even more money based on how many times they pull people in.
That's crazy. It starts to make sense now why the deals are so big.
Yeah.
Because advertising is that valuable. Man, these streams probably suck lots of people into these gambling websites. That's incredible.
Yeah, I just had a come to Jesus moment for this whole situation. Oh man.
Holy cow, these guys are all commercials.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just a big old 3-4 hour commercial. And they get to enjoy themselves doing it. And it could be that every time they get on to do one of these streams, they're not putting in money. They're getting that money deposited. Hey, we know you're doing this gambling today. We're going to put some money into your account so that you can, so that you can participate. Because at that point you're paying them a bonus to stream for them. It's not paying them for advertising. It's not paying them to All right, I want to stop talking about this now because now I'm getting irritated.
Hey, you know what? I think that's a good
move away from this specifically. But anyways, I think that I don't know. I think that it's still predatory regardless. I think that there are obviously some predatory ways companies have begun to get around some of these laws, I guess, that restrict them from advertising gambling specifically. And I think that I have to applaud a little bit, because I mean, hats off for finding a loophole, honestly. But at the same time, I just don't support the practice. So
Well, I appreciate your insight, your discussions. I think it was a pretty good discussion. So it was pretty productive. I think it's important to link to some resources. If there are people out there that are struggling with gambling addictions, or maybe they're realizing that they're having the issue, you can put some of that stuff down in the description. I know I pulled up a couple of resources in my research. There's rehabilitation resources for every state. Yeah, we'll try to get some stuff across the board as much as we possibly can, but I can't encourage it enough. We mentioned it before. Talk to people. You're not alone. You're not the only one. There's no shame in going and getting help for something that you've done, especially if you feel like it's out of reach. But it is something you can do. But it definitely does start with you and trying to make that change. So we'll put that stuff down there below. I don't want to grandstand or anything like that. Like, it can ruin lives and stuff, but I think I'd be remiss to not mention that as well. I guess That's really all I have in closing.
Yeah, I figured I'll call out some of those, a couple of those resources specifically. The main one that I've been seeing a lot of websites have been linking back to them. In fact, is the National Council on Problem Gaming. Their national helpline that they have is 1-800-GAMBLER, so 1-800-GAMBLER. If you don't know how that works, let me find that out really quick, because on your keypad you actually have letters on there for those that don't know that. So essentially it's going to be 1-800-4262, let's see, 537. So for those that don't understand how that works, but the main thing is that they would be a good place. You can find their website online. It's the National Council on Problem Gambling and their national helpline. Aside from that, which I think is also good to call out, aside from the gambling specific problem, if you have had a problem gambling and you're at that point where you've given up and you don't think there's any hope for recovery for yourself, whether that be financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, however that might be. There's also a national suicide and crisis lifeline or hotline you can reach out to, and it's just 988. Super simple, 988. Please call that number if you've gotten to that point. But just know that there are a lot of people out there that want to make sure that you are successful and that you can continue being happy again. So, but that's all I got for today. Just as a reminder, my name is Sean. Nothing I've said today is endorsed necessarily by the U.S. government or the military. Just want to call that out, that these are my views and opinions that I've called out, and nobody else's. Maybe some of them are shared by Dalvin here, but I will I will call that out as that's what this whole thing is about. It's for a discussion. So if you have anything additional you want us to talk about in the future, or something we missed today, we might come back to this subject in the future. I know one of the other ones we definitely want to talk about is addiction. So that's a little bit more, a little broader than gambling specific, but I think it's definitely an important topic and something that'll be really interesting to have a discussion on in the future. So, Dalvin, do you have anything else?
No, I mean, basically stole it all. I guess I did the intro, so it's a little important to say. But if you like these sorts of discussions, if you want to contribute to the discussions, you're always encouraged to leave a like, comment down below. Let us know what you think. Let us know what else you'd like to hear us talk about. Like you just mentioned earlier, we'd love to hear what it is that you say. Yeah, amongst that, I think maybe we're prepping on the discussion about the education system. Addiction maybe is on the board as well. We were talking, but we're free to talk about anything, and maybe even have some guests on, which would be really cool. So, no, appreciate it. Appreciate the discussion.
All right. Stay beautiful, everybody.
Right on.